Hello my friends, and welcome back to another pick a card reading. Today we are doing a reading inspired by a TikTok that I saw that asked what you think your red flags are. So I thought this would be really interesting to investigate with the cards and hopefully spawn some self-reflection in you guys. So we're not just going to be looking at what your red flags are, but sort of some steps that you can take to reflect on them and maybe ameliorate them in the future. So let's get started. We've got 3 piles here. We've got the Book of the Dead tarot with this cute little orange kitty. We've got the Fairy tarot, which was lent to me by a friend, with this gray little kitty. And then also lent to me by a friend is the tarot Mucha with this white little kitty. I apologize, the cats have like dirt on them because they were in my garden. They're like little garden decorations, so ignore that, but I'll give you a couple seconds to pick your pile based on which resonates best with you, and then you can skip to that point in the video. I'll leave the timestamps below. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time deciding. Hello my group ones, if you picked the orange kitty or were drawn to the Book of the Dead tarot, this is your reading for what your red flags are and how to improve. Okay, thank you. I think this card wants to be this way. Okay, interesting. A lot of court cards coming out for you. Okay. And on the back of the deck we have the Chariot in reverse. So I'm gonna set that here, I guess. Okay. So we're going to start with these, and then afterwards we're going to get into some oracle cards. Okay, so we've got the Empress, the King of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups reversed, the Queen of Wands reversed, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Chariot. Okay, so far in this spread, the way that I am looking at it, I'm going to keep the Chariot reversed separate for now, just because it was the back of the deck energy. So we're just gonna put it aside. But overall, I get a sense for your energy through these cards, and honestly, you seem like someone that I would want to be friends with. There's a lot of emotional depth to you, and you're very hardworking and social. Your energy draws people in. Now, when it comes to the red flags, because let's be honest, that's what this reading is about, I am seeing some things come through in terms of sort of what you offer others and how you treat yourself. So primarily the Empress and then the Queen of Cups reversed. These two, it's sort of this interesting balance of wanting to take care of others. With the Empress card, she's a very nurturing presence. So I think you really go out of your way to take care of other people in your life. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, I do think that you're sort of susceptible to being taken advantage of and kind of burning yourself out or feeling like crap because people don't necessarily value you for the time and energy that you put in, and that can negatively affect your self-talk, which is sort of the connection to the Queen of Cups in reverse, because this is about your self-love and the self-talk and stuff like that. So with this card, there's also this sense of codependency. So I think there's still a tether for you to a need for external validation. You need these connections currently, or you have it in your mind that, you know, if you keep putting yourself out there and keep, you know, making time for other people, even when you don't have the emotional energy to do that, or you don't want to, you know, you always put other people before yourself. And I think that's why you're being called to reflect on your practices for self-love with the Queen of Cups in reverse. So yeah, red flag is definitely that you don't take care of yourself enough. You don't value yourself enough right now to, you know, put the efforts that you've been giving other people without any kind of reciprocation. You might be afraid to put that into yourself because there's an aspect of loneliness there that the Queen of Wands, like, that social mentality doesn't want, you know. So it's a lot easier to be social than to sort of face this about yourself. Like, you'd rather be around people that you can take care of and feel like you have sort of a purpose through that, I think. And I think that also links with the King of Pentacles, because this card is about productivity and the need to accomplish things. So I'm seeing this card as sort of an influence on your work life, and maybe even in your friendships, feeling like you need to constantly be offering something. You need to have something to show for your accomplishments. And that's really not true. Like, you have value inherently. And yeah, I think reflecting and seeing if there are people in your life that allow you to just kind of rest and be yourself and still enjoy your company and stuff, that's going to be really powerful for you. Because I honestly, like, based on your energy, I think you're a really, really great person. I'm getting a bit of a sense of like people-pleasing energy with this spread. So I think taking a step away from that, doing the self-care, you know, being independent, because you've got a codependent card here and an independent card here. So you do have this versatility, you do have this duality, but I think you sort of take the social aspects to deflect your need to look inward sometimes. But with the One of Pentacles, this is an interesting card to come out, and my immediate thought, because normally this indicates like new financial or career opportunities, but I think in terms of the spread and sort of what we're asking, this card really symbolizes a possible need for external stimuli with your career. And that's not a bad thing. I think it may be perceived as a red flag because, you know, you want to be happy doing something consistently, but then this part of you is like, no, we need change. So you like to mix it up a little, and it might not necessarily be in the career domain. This could be in your hobbies and stuff. You might change your hobbies so frequently that it's hard for people to keep up with, but you know, you don't stay in one place for too long. You like change in terms of the things in your physical world. So we're going to bring in the back of the deck energy with the Chariot in reverse. And I wanted to save this one for last when we're looking at this overall spread, because I really do think that the Chariot in reverse, especially it sort of hiding at the back of the deck, is an indication that under the surface, sort of the root of what's going on here and what you can do is create a more disciplined plan for yourself. You know, take the time and assign your availability, even if you're offering your time and energy to people whenever they ask, without really checking in with yourself. This card is saying, like, no, you need to set a boundary and have respect for your time, because once you start respecting your time and energy, other people are going to reciprocate that. Other people, you're setting the standard for how other people are treating you. So if you're like running yourself into the ground in terms of productivity and wanting to make sure that everybody else is taken care of, other people are going to see that and be like, oh, I should be caring about myself more than this person, you know? And not to say that other people in your life need to care about you more than themselves, but it's just like, they're not going to reciprocate that energy because you're showing them where to put their energy, and it's back into themselves. So you need to do that for you. And the Chariot in reverse is just kind of saying that. It's just reminding you to take the time to figure out where you want to go and like what boundaries you want to set and how you're going to take a step back and maybe even allow yourself to move a little bit slower instead of like jumping on to help out whoever needs it. You know, you don't have to be productive all the time. Discipline yourself in all domains. And I would also like to say that, like, with the One of Pentacles card, you don't have to see this like need for change in your hobbies or career or whatever as a red flag. I think this is something that can be interpreted as a red flag externally, but that's the thing with red flags, is not everybody is going to see the same things as red flags. I'm saying red flags so much, but that's kind of the video. So I think with this idea of like needing a change of pace in what you're doing in the physical world, it doesn't necessarily have to be something you have to work on. I think with these red flags, you have to personally figure out whether or not you want to work on them or if you're okay to accept them within yourself. So the difference I'm seeing here is like with the codependency that we saw in the Queen of Cups reverse and that need to nurture other people and take care of other people with the Empress, like that's risking your growth to do the growing for other people. Or, you know, stunting your growth because you're putting yourself with other people as a distraction instead of, you know, taking the time to get to know yourself and practice that self-love and self-care. So, something to be mindful of at the very least. Like I said, not all red flags are things that need to be corrected in terms of your own behavior. You just have to figure out sort of what are the deal breakers within yourself. So we're going to move into the Oracle cards next and sort of get some insight on things you can do to ameliorate your situation if you would like. Or just general information. We are going to be using the Green Witch Oracle next. And this was This was a deck that was lent to me also, so big thanks to my bestie. Thank you. Okay. Courage with time. Grounding. That makes sense. Okay, and I'm gonna grab some from the Work Your Light Oracle. What do we get? Nice. Okay. Got Align Your Life, Imrama, and The Crumbling. And then we're going to top this off with the Species by the Thousand Oracle. Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna move your tarot cards off to the side, and that way we can get a better look at these bad boys. Okay, and we've got self-expression, truth, and education in reverse. And I'm gonna get to why I'm leaving that in reverse. I'm feeling called to. Just gonna pull this down. All right. Interesting also the colors that are coming through here. A lot of blues, a lot of really calming colors. So this really makes me think of like peaceful self-care, rest, that kind of thing. With the Courage card, I really think that this is an indication of your courage to take the time that you need and go inward, to let go of your connections with other people that you might be depending on, and release that codependence. I know it can be kind of scary, but I think that you're being called to do that. And then number 13 might be significant for you as well as the number 5. The grounding card, I think, is returning to the self. So the self-care, that idea of discipline, pacing yourself, you know, bringing yourself down to earth instead of allowing yourself to be pulled in each direction all the time. And Virgo or Libra might be relevant to you in terms of your energy as well. I do see Virgo because we did see like the productivity kind of thing popping out earlier, and I feel like Virgo is tied, or many earth signs are tied to productivity and sort of that sense of accomplishment or perfectionism and stuff like that. And then Libra, of course, Libras I find want to make sure that everybody's in harmony, and they'll often go out of their way to make sure that things are running smoothly for other people, even when it's not necessarily, you know, up to them. Or like, it's not necessarily their place to do that. So with the Work Your Light Oracle, we have Align Your Life, what is not aligned or needs to change. And we kind of talked about this, like what you need to let go of, who you need to let go of, whoever you're holding on to in that like codependent relationship, the person you're relying on for a support that I think you really can give yourself. The Crumbling, what are you clinging to? Again, this is just what I was saying. that need for external validation also comes to mind. So allowing yourself to let that go. You might need to tear down your beliefs of what validation looks like and rebuild. And we'll get to that more in a second. Imrama, what are you being called to journey to? So I think this is more of a call to look at your personal life instead of the lives of other people, and how you can improve the lives of other people in your day-to-day. Like, you don't have to stop doing that, you know. I'm sure there are people in your life who appreciate it, but I think because you put yourself out there so much for other people, you're kind of losing your own direction here. And Imrama is reminding you that you have a journey too, and it is completely okay for you to, you know, not put as much effort into the journeys of other people. You know, that's what they're supposed to do, and I wouldn't want you to be taken advantage of for your kindness here and your willingness to help someone on their journey, because sometimes part of the journey is going at it alone, which is what it looks like you're being called to do at this time too. So I'm gonna jump ahead to the education card in reverse. So this, I wanted to keep it in reverse because I really think this is a call to unlearn certain things. And I think that links with a couple things actually. First of all, the productivity. I think you need to unlearn the need to be productive constantly. You don't always have to be producing something in the physical world. You know, you can take the time to rest, but I think this is also unlearning the habits that you've created for yourself in terms of how you tend to other people's emotions and like help them on their journeys. So you may have been sort of socialized to guide people in that way. The truth with the Sodalite card is what you're actually striving towards coming to the surface, I think. Once you ground yourself, you'll really realize what you want out of your own life. And I think you'll also feel free to express a little bit easier because we have the self-expression card here, and you'll be able to express yourself. And this might not necessarily be a verbal thing, but it could be a verbal thing in terms of setting those boundaries, like I was talking about before with that discipline that we saw with the Chariot in reverse. I'm going to wrap up there. I hope this gave you a little bit of insight. If you would like a personal reading to expand on this, or if you have questions, feel free to contact me. My information is in the bio below, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for letting me read for you today, and I will see you next time. Bye! Hello, my group 2s. If you picked the Fairy Tarot or this gray cat, then this is your reading. Okay. So, a lot came out for you, more than I was anticipating, so we'll just get into this. Alright, so before we get into the card's meaning, I just wanted to say because I mentioned it with group 1 that we're looking at red flags, but a red flag doesn't necessarily have to be something that you change. The purpose of this video is really to give you some perspective on how people can interpret your energy, and it's really up to you whether or not you want to make those changes, if you think those changes serve a purpose, or if it's just something that you need to acknowledge in and of yourself. But red flags aren't necessarily inherently bad. It's just little things to be aware of. So now that that's out of the way, you have probably the most major arcana I've seen come out in like consecutively. You've got the Lovers, the Tower, the Hanged Man reverse, and the Wheel of Fortune reverse, as well as the Knight of Swords reversed, the Three of Cups, and the Nine of Cups reversed. So a lot going on here, and I'm sort of picking up on some energy that you carry into relationships. I see this kind of appearing specifically for romantic relationships, just because we do have the Lover's card here. But this could apply to the other relationships that you have in your life. But primarily, I do see you as someone who can get bored quickly. You like change. You like to be the one who incorporates change into your relationship. If things continue on a certain way, you find that it can get boring. And you need sort of an excitement that you can control to stay interested in a lot of things. But that being said, the Tower card tells me that you also fear sudden change and chaos that could be within a relationship. So I see this as things being out of your control. So you are a little bit controlling and quick to be bored. You know, you can easily become dissatisfied if things aren't holding your attention, and this might create a little bit of impulsivity and restlessness, just because we have the Knight of Swords reversed. So this kind of creates an unfocused energy where you're more so looking for things to keep you interested and excited in your relationships. But it's more so for your own enjoyment. And like, there's a flip side to this, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, you know, like you could be incredibly creative in this pairing, because we have like the Three of Cups here, which is an indication of creativity and collaboration. So you have the ability to work with another person, your partner, and like be a friend as well as a lover. But because you like to hold the control and you're fearful of any change that's out of your hands, then there's a bit of this issue with a power dynamic. This can create some challenges. I also see with the Lover's card, the first thing that came to mind when I saw the Lover's card with the Tower was testing your partners. So setting up little things to make sure that your partners pass certain levels and expectations for you. And this might not necessarily be like a conscious thing you do, but it is something subconscious that perhaps people in your life notice you do before you notice. So this might need a little bit more reflection. And I don't think there's anything, again, inherently bad with any of the traits that I'm bringing up here. It's just things that you need to look at in yourself and decide whether or not this is useful to you. This is like, if this is a useful behavior or not. And we'll get into the oracles after this to sort of explore ways in which you can move forward with any changes that will help you to sort of either fix these red flags or find a way to cope with them. Because I think like red flags are sort of rooted in fears and insecurities and stuff, and it looks like there is a fear of change, of letting those controls loose, and like not being the one controlling the change, that kind of thing. So aside from testing your partner, I do see with the Tower combined with the Lover's card, I see this as a bit of self-sabotage as well. Again, it might happen subconsciously, but you are controlling these Tower moments of sudden change and upheaval and sort of making everything fall apart because it's either more interesting, it's more mentally stimulating to break something and then try and fix it, something like that. But at the same time, with the Hanged Man in reverse, I feel like this is a reflection of your inability to move forward or past a certain point with a partner. So whether this is like a fear of commitment, so you're stalling, or you're like breaking off certain things, you know, you're creating these Tower moments, you're testing your partner, but really you're just like finding ways externally to end something because you're afraid. Sorry if that resonated. That felt a little bit like a strong call out. But I don't know. It's coming through, so clearly somebody needs to hear it. With the Wheel of Fortune in reverse, this is just a further indication of like resisting any change that's outside of your hands, but it's also an indication of repeated negative cycles. So again, this sort of idea of controlling a relationship and testing your partner and self-sabotaging in a way that puts things sort of on the line is a cycle. This might be something that you've seen yourself do subconsciously or consciously in several relationships. So becoming more aware of that and taking the time to reflect on that might be important for you, perhaps this month. That pretty much covers what I'm seeing in the tarot. So we are going to move on to the oracle and sort of see what we can expand on, how we might be able to move forward with this knowledge, and how we might be able to reflect and use our powers for good. So we're gonna move these aside and get into the oracle. So the first oracle deck that I'm going to be using is the Green Witch Oracle, which was lent to me by a friend for this reading specifically. So we'll get some information for you, pile 2. Love. What else we got? Interesting. Okay, so we've got more than I was anticipating for these cards as well, but we have love, courage, clarity. We're gonna get some of the Work Your Light Oracle, which I've used previously in readings. We have Trust the Niggle. Thank you. And Warrior Woman. You don't necessarily have to be a woman for that card to apply, by the way. And we'll get to that. But I am going to draw some of the Species by the Thousand Oracle just to close off. And then we'll get into some of the meanings. I always say some. Okay, so we've got Authenticity with Lapis Lazuli, Simplification with Tourmalinated Quartz, oh my god, and then Moldavite with Open-Mindedness. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. We're going to start with these cards up here. So we've got 30, 13, and 1. And in terms of the signs, we've got 2 Libra and a Virgo, which is so interesting because that's what came out in pile 1 as well for the signs. So, and Libra here is super interesting to me because it's like the balancing of things. So I think this is like keeping an inner balance as well as like an outer balance of that need for control and then releasing control. And then Virgo is the perfectionism kind of coming through. Love, courage, clarity. For love, like I said, I really got the feeling that this was a romance specific reading for you in terms of red flags. But I think this is a call to allow yourself to feel love. Like, I know it's super scary, but that's where the courage thing comes in. And this is also having love for yourself. You know, I think of the quote from Purse of Being a Wallflower and the idea of, like, we accept the love we think we deserve. I'm pretty sure that's the book it came from. I might be getting that wrong. I literally just woke up from a nap, so my brain might be a little foggy, but anyways, so I think this is calling you to examine what love is to you and sort of work on that relationship with yourself, and working on how you demonstrate and accept love from other people. So this doesn't mean, like, the idea of working on loving yourself doesn't need to happen as a single person. You could be single, that's perfectly fine. But you could also be in a relationship and practicing self-love. Like, I don't think you need to figure that out for yourself first before you get into a relationship. But, you know, you have to have the courage to open up and release the controls a little bit. So, I know it's scary and it'll take time,
huh, get it? Because it's time. Anyways, I think once you start to release the holds and sort of face those fears, you're gonna have a lot of inner clarity. You're gonna see the things that you were once worried about aren't as terrifying as you know, gave them power for. I think with this also, you might be more aware of your self-sabotaging behaviors and when you're testing your partner, but I think the root of why you do that is like you feel something and it cues you to make these tests for them. So I think that's where the Trust the Nagel card is coming in. Honestly, that's a super weird word. I've never heard it referred to this, but I see that as like the intuition. And basically this card is asking, like, what is this feeling deep down trying to tell you? Because you know, when you feel that urge to test your partner or you know, create a challenge or a tower moment and test the relationship, what's the root cause? Like, what are you actually looking for? And trust the feeling rather than your response to it, if that makes sense. Because I think that will lead you to communicate a lot better. And then we have the Warrior Woman. Have you answered your deepest calling? So again, this is like looking at the roots. Like the calling, I feel, is that emotion as well. Like you feel called to do something, but examine what you're actually being called to do instead of self-sabotaging. Because I do think that, like, you are put here to love. You are put here to experience love, and you're setting up all of these, like, sort of booby traps for yourself so that there isn't a risk. You know, there's always something in the way. You're making it far more complicated than it needs to be for you to have your needs met in a relationship. And I think that's also where the simplification card comes in. Like, getting rid of this complication, having that clarity of recognizing the deep emotional feeling, you know, that comes through, and not responding in the cycles that you've used before, you know, noticing that, you know, perhaps that hasn't served you, and having the courage to stand against that and accept love. So really simplifying what you feel in order to communicate it is a huge step for you, I think. But I think with that, it's going to, like, allow you to be far more open-minded. You know, you're going to be able to see a lot of different things with clarity because you suddenly realize your emotional roots in the situation, and you're able to make better decisions, or, like, you know, not test external people as much, and have more of a recognition for yourself. And I think because of that, you're going to be able to express yourself more authentically, because we have the authenticity card here. So I think this is a big step, and obviously, like, it's entirely up to you to take that step. But with your red flags being that need for control and a tendency for testing your partner in a relationship, or self-sabotaging because perhaps you're quick to bore, or you're afraid to open up, that kind of thing. Like, you can communicate those things authentically with a partner, and I think you're honestly, like, you're being called to be in an authentic and open relationship. Not like open as in like seeing other people, but like, I mean, maybe if that works, but like an open-minded kind of relationship, a like verbally open relationship where you can express your emotions and sort of what you're going through. Because I think, you know, as I've said, at the heart of these red flags, the deeper meaning is tied to your emotional self and sort of that sense of security. So your sense of security is tethered to your control, and your limitation of acceptance for good things like love. So I think doing some self-reflection on that, you know, seeking clarity and really understanding the emotional roots of the why in these circumstances is going to be incredibly beneficial for you. That is what I'm seeing for your reading. I hope this gave you some insight to move forward and make any changes you want to make or can make right now with your potential red flags. Thank you so much. If you would like a more expanded version or a more personalized reading, feel free to reach out to me through the information in the description box below. I would love to read for you. Alright, thank you so much, Group 2. Bye!
Hello, my Group 3s. If you picked the Tarot Mucha or this white little kitty, then, oh, get this guy out of here, then this is your reading.
Awesome. Okay. My goodness. We'll get a couple more. You. And thank you very much. And then for the back of the deck, we have the Knight of Cups. Okay, my Group 3s. We've got the King of Pentacles in reverse, the Four of Wands, the Three of Wands reversed, the Six of Cups reversed, the Sun, and the Knight of Cups at the back of the deck. So a few things came through with these cards. Overall, I think that you have a very generally positive outlook on life. Especially with the Sun card, you probably like view things in a really good light a lot of the time, and you've got the Knight of Cups here, who is known as like a romantic charmer, that kind of thing. So I think you probably draw a lot of people to you, and you probably enjoy the attention being on you as well. Yeah, I see you as being like a positive, fun-loving kind of person, who attracts a lot of people, but I also think that this positivity kind of bleeds into a bit of toxicity, just that toxic positivity of like trying to make light of things instead of working on them. And I think the flip side of the Knight of Cups card is sort of this tendency to romanticize things instead of seeing them objectively. So these are some like risks to the positives. And I guess I should mention also, because I've said it in group 1 and 2 already, that these red flags are just, you know, what the cards bring up for me in this reading. And red flags are just things that we can identify within ourselves and we can choose to work on, or we can choose to notice them and understand that aspect of ourselves and move forward, knowing a little bit more about how we function. So it's up to you how you use the information in these readings to and apply it to your life. But not all red flags are inherently like bad. They might just be things to acknowledge in yourself, or sort of things that indicate areas in our life in which we need to grow. So I'm not trying to make any of this an attack. I'm just, you know, stating what the cards tell me to tell you without any judgment. And then it's entirely up to you how you want to move forward. So aside from this sort of tendency towards toxic positivity and romanticizing or glorifying things instead of viewing them objectively, we have the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, which is an indication that you might value wealth and security and social status a lot. And this might be considered a red flag because there is a question of sort of what you're willing or capable of doing in order to obtain that sense of status. You know, I think you have a very controlled social image, and it's not necessarily reflective of who you are authentically. So I think being aware of how you like to project yourself, especially if you are this like this Knight of Cups kind of person, just like attracting a lot of people, this may be a call for you to further examine that. But I do think also with this mentality, especially with the Four of Wands, you want that sense of harmony and peace. Like you're a moderator, you don't like to stir up trouble. You're probably very non-confrontational. That's a way to summarize, and it just came to me. So you're probably very non-confrontational, which is why you have a tendency to just like see the positives, or just like rely on the positives to get you through things instead of dealing with harder emotions. So that's a bit of a red flag in terms of like an inability to examine yourself. And this can come from a place of fear. Like, I'm not saying this isn't warranted based on your experience and stuff. It's just something that you're being called to question now. So with the Three of Wands in reverse, this is an indication that you are looking at the small picture. You're not taking things into account for the grand scheme of things. There's a lack of forward planning, which is really interesting because I think you like the idea of security, but you handle things more in the moment and like to have a positive outcome. So if there's an issue or something that's presented to you, instead of looking like 10 steps ahead of what you can do to like resolve the issue or something, you look at whatever you can do in the moment to calm things down. But the more you keep doing things in that way, the more issues are going to keep bubbling up to the surface. So it's like you turn down the heat, but the element is still on, you know? The pot is still boiling, and at a certain point it's just gonna, like, you know, it's gonna backfire. That's a really poor analogy, but like, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I think there's a lack of foresight with the Three of Wands reversed. But in addition to that, it's not only that you're not looking forward, you're also stuck in the past with the Six of Cups reversed. And I think you're focusing a lot on the past because either you're caught up with a need to be forgiven, which is perhaps why you exercise like so much effort in upholding a positive social status, or, you know, being that cheerful person, or you know, that like charmer, keeping the harmony and stuff like that, is because there was an issue in the past that you haven't forgiven yourself for, or someone else didn't forgive you for, that you felt was entirely because of your previous behavior. So now there's so much more control over being like a positive behaving presence, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think you also have a bit of a tendency to hold grudges, and this affects how you act in certain situations. So there is this kind of feeling of not manipulation, because I don't think it's necessarily a manipulation of other people. It's a manipulation of your presence around other people, though. And I think for those who you do let close to you, they see this change in your behavior to uphold that like social status and keep the harmony, and you know, like stay positive and be charming and stuff like that. And there's almost a an inauthentic aspect about it, because, you know, they've had the experience of seeing who you really are and understanding like the different layers of you. And I think it's hard for you perhaps to accept that, you know, that you are acceptable as you are. So whatever this past thing was, whatever you're clinging onto from your past, it's affecting you more than I think it has to. So that's generally what I'm seeing for this spread so far, but we're gonna get into the oracle cards and sort of see what you can do to move forward with this new information about your red flags. So we're gonna move these aside, and the first oracle cards that I'm going to be using are the Green Witch Oracle, which were lent to me by a friend. So get a couple of these. Oh my gosh. pile 3. What can they do to move forward with their reflex? Okay. Interesting. Okay. So this one fell out, and it fell out like face up in a pile as soon as I picked up the cards. So I didn't take it, but I had a strong feeling that that one was for you. So that is super interesting that it made an appearance. We're gonna grab another. Oh, thank you. Interesting. So we've got affection and passion. And we're gonna grab some cards from my Worth Your Light Oracle. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you can hear all the ruckus in the background. All of my cards just fell everywhere. Okay, so what other messages get? Okay. Thank you. Soul family. Pillar of light. I'm gonna move these actually like that. And one more. Thank you. Okay. And lastly, we are going to be using the Species by the Thousand Tarot, or the Species by the Thousand Oracle. My goodness. Behind the scenes is a mess, everyone. But that's what happens when I get into it. So let's see what we can get. Thank you. Compatibility. Oh my gosh. Anything else for free? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Oi. All right. I'm not sure if everything's in the frame. Okay, so the sun is setting, so the lighting is changing a little bit, but that's okay. We'll get through this. Alright, so to begin, we're going to look at the Green Witch Tarot. So we've got affection and we've got passion. So with these cards, also I want to call attention, we've got Taurus and we've got Leo coming through, as well as the number 12 and the number 7. So if any of those have any relevance to you, this can just be further confirmation that this reading is for you. And what's interesting is, I think, the signs. Taurus is a very like slow and steady kind of vibe, and then Leo is a confident presence, a confidence energy. So
this may be what you're being called to bring into your current situation. But for the affection card, I think approaching this sort of thing, your relationship with yourself, I think mostly, is coming at it from a place of affection. Especially for the past self that you're holding on to currently, because I think that part of you is very affected and probably seeking reassurance, which is why you take on this Knight of Cups personality that we saw, where you're really charming and like probably attract and enjoy attracting a lot of attention from other people. And I think I don't want to come for your throat or anything, but like I think you're trying to fill that that void based on something that happened in your past. But I think you can entirely do that on your own if you have the care and affection and compassion towards yourself. And there's nothing wrong with accepting affection from other people, but I think you're being called to do that for yourself as well, especially if you're relying on external thoughts on yourself, external validation, when you've built up this specific identity for the outside world that doesn't necessarily align with who you are internally. So the passion card is really interesting for this reading. I think you do have a lot of passion for life. You know, there's a lot of things that you take, that you have passion for in terms of your interests and everything. And I think, moving forward with that passion is actually going to align you with people who are highly compatible with you, with the Shiva Lingam card. And I think that's really what you need, instead of accepting like a lot of surface level attention and that kind of reassurance from a wide audience. I think like a deep and like passionate kind of relationship with other people in your like a soul family, because we have the soul family card here. So like a tighter knit group of friends who really get to see the real you, I think that's going to be really powerful in terms of your experience. And I think once you do that, once you make that shift and allow yourself to be more authentic, be more open-minded to the possibilities of who you can present yourself as, being open-minded to the potential that people will accept you as you are, and for the people who don't, you're like, whatever, allowing that to be released from you. Because once you do that, once you're not carrying the weight of other people's expectations for you and like trying to live up to those expectations, your vibration is going to lift. Your vibration's going to go up. So that's going to help you attract those connections. And I'm seeing a lot of like split down the middle imagery in these cards. So I think this is sort of an examination of the reflection of yourself from like who you are with this close group to your public self. And these can match. But right now they're not aligning. So you're being called to look inward and figure out what you're truly meant to do, because I think there are certain things that don't resonate well with you in this experience. You might feel inauthentic presenting yourself in this like toxic positivity kind of mindset all the time. Like, it might not feel right to you, but you assume other people want that, or like that's what they need from you, so you fill that role for them. But I don't think that's authentically what you're meant to do. So you're being called to examine that a little more. And I think on top of that, you like putting yourself in that role for other people is actually super draining for you. Which is why I think we have the black tourmaline card with protection, because you need to protect your own energy and stop sort of submitting more of it to things that don't really relate to you. Like upholding your image or this image that you've created is wearing you down more than anything. And I don't like, one thing that I'm getting is maybe you're worried about making a change to your public image because of the effect that you think it'll have on other people. Like, you're like, oh, like, I don't want to make any big changes or anything because then people will be like, oh, what's going on with you and stuff. But I don't think you necessarily, like, I don't think these people are paying as much attention as you think they are. And for all that you know, like this toxic positivity kind of approach to things might actually be affecting them negatively more than you realize. So yeah, I think it's very much a waste of energy, and you need to protect that energy, protect, you know, your own mentality too, because the more you lean into this nature of trying to keep the harmony instead of deal with things, you know, the more you're setting yourself up for things in the future. We had the card earlier of the lack of foresight, and I think the protection card kind of emphasizes that, where like tending to things at a surface level in the present isn't necessarily going to prevent them from coming back and biting you in the butt later. So just something to be mindful of as you move forward. And yeah, that is what I'm seeing for your reading today. Thank you so much for letting me read for you, and I really hope that this brought a little bit of insight. If you would like a personal reading with me, you can check out the link in my description box below, and I would love to read and expand more on this, so you can set up an appointment there. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!